Thanks to the folks at Esri for having me back here. This is, I think, my fourth year in a row presenting here at the summit, and I think probably the project we're most excited about, and I think really highlights the trajectory of our firm over the last 4 years and how we've really started to put the science into our plans and start to leverage all of these great software, not just the Esri tools, but all the tools that are out there to our field of urban planning to create more informed plans. So my name is Devin Levine. I'm a principal and co-founder of a firm called Houseal Lavigne Associates. I do have specialized expertise in 3D, in GIS. Been an early adopter of CityEngine, of SketchUp, and have really tried to sort of push the envelope in 3D as it applies to the field of planning. Our firm, we're based in Chicago, although we're pleased to announce we open up an office in Southern California this January. We do all scales of planning. Last year, one of the sessions I spoke to was Geo Designs at all scales, and I highlighted our work with the Cape Cod Commission on their regional policy plans. So all the way at the regional scale down to the specific site. And we work all over the country, taking on a wide range of projects. A couple of awards we're fond of. In 2014, we received the Planning Excellence Award from the American Planning Association. And they gave us this award noting our use of technology in the field of planning. And I think sitting here 6 years later, probably more deserving of that award than we were then. And in 2018, we received a Special Achievement in GIS Award for some work we did with the City of Oshkosh and Oshkosh Corporation. Really a real good win for Geo Design. This is a graphic. For the last 3 years, I think I've had this in my slides. And what we try to do is showcase that there's all different types of tools that we go in and out of. And so Geo Design to us isn't necessarily a workflow. It's a toolbox, a suite of tools that we use. And it's, like I mentioned before, it's not all Esri software. It's the Adobe Creative Suite, it's SketchUp, AutoCAD. Hand sketching is still key to really everything we do. And what I want to do this year is sort of break that out into the linear process. So when I show that wheel, it's not a circular wheel. It's not like we start at the hand sketch and work our way to Unreal Engine. But this is sort of the workflow, how we went from ArcGIS Pro to a hand sketch all the way into an immersive 3D walkthrough. So this is the project I'll walk you through. It's a town called Morrisville. Morrisville is situated in the Research Triangle in North Carolina, between Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, and Duke University, Raleigh, Durham, Wake Forest, sort of Morrisville's in the midst. Right there to the right, that white area is the Raleigh-Durham Airport. And they hired us to create their land use plan for the entire city. And so the project's called Mapping Morrisville. And it's a land use plan. It's short of a comprehensive plan. We're not getting into transportation, parks, and open space, strictly land use and development. And they asked us to study these two areas. Their TOD area, where they're getting some bus rapid transit, and this McCrimmon extension. And we went through our typical workshops. We met with the community. We did these things called DIY kits, where residents could pick up a packet and conduct their own workshops. We held, I think, 8 different workshops around the town, with youth leadership, with developers, the Park and Rec Board. We did workshops at the bike rodeo, there's Spring Fest. We had a table. We mailed out postcards. We had a website. We heard from all these people, and what we heard was they wanted their town center addressed. This was a city that had grown through suburban sprawl. It didn't have a unified focal point, a place that everyone in this community could call home. There was an area in the community that had been identified as the town center, and the town told us that this plan was guiding that development, and so to leave that off the table. And what we heard consistently from the residents was this plan was deficient. This wasn't a vision for that area. This is the drawing right out of this 2007 plan. And since 2007, the town leaders had not approved any development within this area. One, no one was real sure what this drawing meant, so they didn't know if a development proposal was consistent with their plan or their vision. And two, there was some consternation about whether or not they should go to this sort of sketch plan, which is a little more rural, with some surface parking lots, or what the development community had told them was that they needed parking structures to be a more dense urban area. So the city had seen some of our work. This was a map we put together at the 2018 user conference in the map gallery. It took second place for a 3D city. And we helped the city of Battle Creek imagine what their entire city would look like if it redeveloped. So using CityEngine, we created a set of rules that took, 7 different land use typologies, applied them to every single parcel in the city. We broke the streets into 12 different types of streets, and we generated a 3D model, a new 3D model for the city of Battle Creek. So the town planner, a GIS user, had seen this work and thought, boy, if we can get in and do some 3D in the town center, maybe the town council would support it. He had also seen this drawing we had done for the town of Hudson, Ohio, where we did some 3D work on their town center, really trying to show them how they could expand it, create some excitement around the downtown. And then he saw this video that we posted to YouTube. I showcased this last year. We took our office and we made it into a video game level using the source engine. So using SketchUp, CityEngine, ArcGIS, Pro, and Photoshop, we took the floor plan of our office. Our iPhones took photos from everywhere. We built a 3D model of downtown Chicago. We did those viewshed analysis that Eric was showing to identify where in the city that what buildings you could see to optimize the polygons. And then we walked through, we created a digital twin, if you will, of our office. And it's a little playground for us at lunch when we play some games to let some steam off. And so this whole video is on YouTube. You can sort of see how we built this and fly around our office. And if you come visit us, it's basically a one-to-one scale, a digital twin, if you will, of our office. So he had seen these tools and asked us, if you could do this with 3D, maybe you can bring this into our town center to help us solve this issue. So with that, they extended our contract to include the town center. This is the town center. This is the community focal point. There's not a lot here. The area in blue, this is where they've been pushing all of their municipal facilities. Town hall is there, Parks Department, Planning Office, Police, Fire, Ambulance. The area in red, this is the area where developers had come to them with a lot of interest, and the town council for the last 14 years had told them, no, we're afraid to make a mistake. We don't know what we want, the vision isn't clear, and once we allow something to get built, we're going to be stuck with it. So they asked us to help them vet it. Do they want to see a rural development, or do they want to see something a little more intense? So we did preliminary land use programs for each of these 3 areas based on a detailed market assessment using business analysts and another Esri product. We look at what the market potential is for multifamily, office space, retail space, industrial and flex space. And we heard from the community, these were the types of development that they love. Some of these are in town, some of these are in next door, Cary, North Carolina. But generally, this is the development type that the city likes. You can see some colorful buildings here, some blues, oranges, and they asked us to do this. So we did 2 land use alternatives for the downtown. And so if you pay attention here, I'll show you option 1 and option 2. Nothing changed. There's some subtle changes in the text. You'll see the text columns changed slightly. I felt like it was looking at Highlights magazine where I was trying to spot the differences of the 2 maps. And really what it was is the land use was set. They know what they wanted. It was just the intensity issue. What height is appropriate, and do they want parking structures? And so what we did, we brought this into, first we sketched on top of some base maps. We brought it into CityEngine. So I'll show you some CityEngine screenshots. There's a great feature in here where you can take, go get map data. It goes into ArcGIS Online. You get an updated aerial. There's a service called NearMap that has more updated aerials. I think there's 4 or 5 times a year they're shooting aerial imagery in North Carolina. So you're able to, in CityEngine, to kind of bring in other imagery. So this is the updated. You can see they built this roundabout, and they have this street going into future development of God knows what. They don't know yet. We brought in this developer's plan. This was the developer's vision for the town center. We brought that into CityEngine. And then some of our quick hand sketches where we sort of tried to mass it out. And from there, we traced in street center lines. We tried to sort of get that street grid. And you can see here, we made some adjustments in CityEngine. It didn't work. Our sketch plans weren't right. We heard from the DOT that we couldn't have a perfectly square intersection at Carolina Street. It needed to hit on that skew angle. We built out these roads, and then what we did is, once we had our street set, we were left with these models, and we're left with these yellow areas. So we took these yellow areas out of CityEngine, and we brought them into SketchUp. And what we did in SketchUp, mostly a CAD exercise, we did some detailed site planning. We laid out the buildings, the walkways, the parks, the plazas, the parking lots, the landscape islands, and we create this colorful image. And what we do with this image is now we bring it back into CityEngine where we can apply rules. So one of the things Eric showed you when he was looking at those ArcGIS urban rules, you get those reporting dashboards, or those reporting numbers. Well, in CityEngine, you can build dashboards. So we looked at option A, we compared it with option B, so we're almost doubling the square footage. We're at about 1.7 million square feet versus 900,000. We bounced this off the client. We said, what do you think of this massing? This is what we're thinking. This is what Brad gave us back. He marked up a PDF. We went back into CityEngine to refine our concepts. So to give you an idea of what that looks like and how we sort of use CityEngine's immediate feedback when we design, you can see the dashboards are on the left, and we expose all these different attributes in the buildings. What is the parking ratio per square footage for office? What's the parking ratio per square foot for commercial? How many parking spaces does each residential dwelling unit need? Parking was a big driver here. We knew that the parking decks were scary to them. And so we could see if I increase the number of stories, all my charts increase, but more importantly, I'm seeing that parking number. If I increase that building to 8 stories, I now need another 200 parking spaces. So I got to go in the parking garage, and I got to add a couple more levels to the parking garage. And we did this back and forth between each of the scenarios to get really 2 balanced scenarios. And you can see here, I still have a little bit of space, so we can add another floor to that building. And so this was the simple massing that we did to sort of get their initial sign-off. But ultimately, we knew they wanted that immersive 3D walkthrough. So we published this onto ArcGIS Online. We gave them the town center comparison, and they were able to sort of see option A is at the bottom, the less dense with the surface parking lot, B at the top with the parking garage. For some reason, I flip-flop it on this side, but this is where we added the detailed buildings. We had those photos of the buildings they wanted to see. We mimicked the development style inside of CityEngine with our own rules, and we created a custom rule set. You could see each of these. This was shared with the town council. They can click on any building. I could see that this building alone requires 171 parking spaces. 57 of them are for the multifamily above, and the other 114 are for the ground floor retail. And you see what the impact of height is. So the big thing we had heard was they didn't want to create a canyon down Carolina Street. This is the main street. And I can remember looking at this web scene and getting down on the street going, boy, I don't know if they're going to go for option B. This to me looks like a canyon, and it doesn't look like a very inviting pedestrian place. Enter the Unreal game engine, where renders a lot better, more quickly. We're going to see more visual scale. This was a bit of the trick. Here's our calendar in August. Staff was giving us final comments on the massing on August 31st. We were presenting to their town council on August 13th. I'll highlight a couple things. There's really just 2 people in the office working on this. There's me and Nick Davis. Thursday and Friday, I was in Jenks, Oklahoma, running some workshops. Nick is out on vacation. The whole following week, Nick and I are both out. So we have 1 day in the office together to kind of pull this together. So this is Nick's location. Nick's up in the UP with his boys. I'm here at Universal Studios, and we got about 9 days to get this into an immersive walkthrough. And Nick carved away some time. He started to add some of the details like these trees. Nothing fancy, just sort of, we call these Lego trees. We get these into SketchUp and we swap them out into the Unreal Engine for realistic models. I went to work on the details that are gonna sell this, things like pavement. The rules in CityEngine provide streets, but they're perfect. The paint is perfect, there's no oil stains, and a street looks like that for about 30 minutes until they open it up to traffic. And so we started to create all of these detailed textures to bring into the game engine. Things like tire wear, cracks in the pavement, manholes, patches, and texture library. This is what it looks like inside of Windows Explorer. Inside of CityEngine, I created this little naming. So lane-XXX 012 would tell me there's no paint on the left side, there's cracks on the, or there's tire wear, and there's a dashed white line. And so creating this simple rule, I'm able to sort of take a street and make it look like it's been lived in, make the city look like it's been lived in. So just through the attributes, we can make a street look like a real street. And we did the same thing for building textures. We created what are called normal maps, which create depth on a 2D texture, opacity mask to make the windows reflective, and brought this into the Unreal. So this is scenario A, it's the less dense option. Scenario B, more dense. And these are the two different options. And we were asked to go to the town council to walk them through it. So I'll walk over here and show you what we did for the city council. We basically, in the Unreal Engine, created a playable walkthrough of the entire development. And so the town planner said to us, walk over here, show us what it's like. And so from inside of the Unreal Engine, they could kind of walk down the street and look at option A. So what does scenario A look like in scenario 1, 2? So in real time, they're able to see, so you're getting some motion blur with the projection. So you can see we added some details like the town name on the banner. We're bringing in some of the dashboards straight out of CityEngine. And so they had us at the town meeting walk through the entire community. One of the things they were mostly concerned of, there were some townhomes over here that they were convinced would be looking out over a Chicago, if you will. I mean, they were afraid of what the height would look like from the homes surrounding the downtown. And so for about 30 minutes at their town council meeting, they had to sort of walk here, walk there, and now sort of turn and look down the street. And what's the impact of the tall buildings? And their biggest concern was what it would look like at a Central Park site. So for about 30 minutes, we went through this and helped them evaluate what it meant for their town center. And happy to say at the end of it, unanimous recommendation to go with the denser option. So we sit there, we watch them sort of take a vote. They're like, mayor goes, I'll go first. The taller buildings look way better. It feels more enclosed, and there is a urban design principle, a sense of enclosure. It's like, it just felt more comfortable. I think it's what we ought to do. Right down the board, every single council member, they agree. And so Nick and I leave the town council chambers, and planner walks out. It was like, oh my God, that was absolutely awesome. And his boss walks out, and she was a little more reserved. So we didn't know how. She walks out straight-faced. She puts down her briefcase and was like, boy, this is the best money this town has ever spent. Let's let's move forward. So the process, ArcGIS Pro, base maps, we're doing those hand sketches, looking at concepts, bouncing them off the client. We're getting that feedback, bringing them into CityEngine to get those parcels exported, using Photoshop to align those terrains, creating that street grid in CityEngine, using SketchUp as a CAD tool here. This could have been AutoCAD, I guess, at this point. Taking what came out of SketchUp into CityEngine, building those dashboards, getting that real-time feedback, helping create those scenarios, using the 3D web scene to get our client input. And then once we were finished, we brought it to Photoshop, we created those detailed textures, the normal maps, the specularity maps, the opacity maps. We modeled some of the existing buildings in SketchUp along with the props, that light post, the street lights. And then we created the CGA rules to construct that detailed model. And then the last thing you're seeing, that Unreal work, I mean, that came together in a couple of days. Thanks, Eric mentioned Datasmith. One of the things that works better than you expect is the Unreal Datasmith and the CityEngine export to Datasmith. Our time in Unreal was, just a few hours. Most of it getting that hipster rigged up so we could walk him around downtown. So for sure, it was a win for Geo Design and our firm. Everyone's happy. This guy's jumping for joy. And with that, thank you very much for the opportunity. And